Hello, everyone. Thank you for tuning in. This is Jacob and Michael. We have a lot of people here from around the world. In the comments, it's just going crazy. I had no idea that would be such a worldwide event. This is awesome. Super good turnout, so thank you. Just to recap on what this is all about. This is my first live logo design session, and basically I'm going to show you how I go about making logos. I'm going to have a bit of fun with it with some of your names, and then we're going to get into Michael's awesome tool, which is called Logo Package Express, which has been one of my favorite tools for logo design for the past, year or so now. And he's just brought out a new version of it with some amazing features, which I'm yet to try out, but Michael is going to be going through the demo with. So basically what it does, you can export all your logos in under 2 minutes, and it saves you hours and hours of time, because anyone that's done logo design knows that saving out the files is just it's the worst. So we're going to get into the fun stuff. I see some people in the backgrounds. The giraffe is not real. It's actually going to be turned into a flamingo in the back there. I've created some art. It's just when I bought the frame, it came with the giraffe, and that's how it happened. So if people I'm not sure how much people can see of my background. For me, it's just I can't see the giraffe. It's just the neon sign there. So thanks, Cam. Yeah, so loving the studio. I've been here for about 3 weeks. This is the new studio. I'm just going to turn off your cam, Mike, just to see if people can see everything. So I guess people can see the giraffe there now. The fake plant, and then the studio down the back. So I'm going to be using this notebook a little bit for some sketches, but I'm going to keep things pretty fast. So I know everyone's time is valuable, so I want to get into it pretty much straight away. And yeah, I guess the next step for me is I'm going to share a screen just to give you guys some understanding of who I am, where I've come from, and I guess why this is going to be useful for you. So let me share my screen. Just give me a second. Okay. All right, there may be a little bit of a delay between what I'm showing and what I'm talking, so I'll go a little bit slower than usual. But basically I'm going to start off with what makes a good logo, and then I'm going to look at some of the logos I've done in the past to show you where I've come from and where I am now, and some of the principles that you can apply with your work as well. And just as a reminder, you can submit questions in the question box on the Crowdcast, and you can upvote some of the questions so I can get to them first if some of them resonate better. I've taken a look already, and I will try to answer a few now. But let's get into it. So, 5 principles of effective logo design. You have to keep it simple. You have to make it creative and memorable, so it stands out from other logos. You need to make it timeless, so you're not always changing it. If you think of the biggest brands out there, then they hardly ever change their logos, and even if they do, often it can backfire. So the idea is to make it timeless. Versatile, meaning that it can be used in many different places, and often this means you can have responsive logos or different versions of your logo depending on where it's being used. So like a large version, a small version, a medium version. So these are basic principles, and you have to make it appropriate for the business. So I'm going to show you the very first logo I did, which I found in one of my graphic arts books when I didn't even know what graphic design was as a career. It was just one of those classes you did in high school. So this is my first one, age 15, done with pencil. I didn't even get onto the computer. Very detailed. I did have some negative space in there, which was impressive. I was impressed by that. But I just wanted to show you where I've come from. And some of these principles may not apply. So these are my first logos. I dug them up from my archives. Some terrible, terrible logos. Some good ones that I don't know where they came from, but these were the earliest ones I could find. So as you can see, extremely detailed. It doesn't actually match the principles of design. Is it simple? No, there's tons of little like dots that will get lost. Like this is actually, I think, a font that I changed into an eagle. It's like it's just really grungy. There's a lot of effects, and it's just totally goes against all the principles of good logo design. This one was also a font, like had like a little wingding font. So definitely not original. It's not memorable. and because it's not unique either. So the idea is that you want to create something simple, memorable, timeless, versatile, and appropriate. So I just want to show you where I've come from, because everyone is at a different stage in their journey. And these days I've been designing logos for San Francisco, Puerto Rico, Jerry Seinfeld. So these are some of the ones I did recently last year for San Francisco. This is the one I did for Jerry Seinfeld in his amazing show, Comedians in Cars Getting Coffee. And just a few days ago, I got notification that I have won for 10 years running awards from Logo Lounge, and I was really happy to hear that these logos, even one from San Francisco, had won this badge of honor for 10 consecutive years. So that's a little bit
Jacob,
about my history. Yeah.
They're asking if you can zoom in a little bit.
Yep.
Because I think the share is...
Yeah, some people's screens may be... okay, I'll do that better. So I'll just zoom in again for some people that may have missed it. So these are the terrible logos. The first one was detailed. This is the fonts, pretty generic one. These ones actually got into the Logo Lounge book. So they were the first logos, which were pretty strong ones compared to these earlier ones. But yeah, I just wanted to show where I've come from. And everyone's at a different stage of the journey. So these days it's San Francisco. Hopefully you can see that now. And Comedians in Cars Getting Coffee. This is a handwritten typeface, so I made a full alphabet of this sketch kind of look because it matched comedy very well. And we use that typeface for everywhere in the advertising. These are all the badges of honor from Logo Lounge, and these are some of the winning logos this year. So enough about me. I just wanted to give you some context of where I'm coming from, why you should listen so you don't tune out. And now I'm going to get into creating logos for different people. So it's a bit of a challenge. It's going to be very off the cuff. I asked people to submit names of different, I guess, personalities, so we can have some fun with this. But I also want to ensure that the people that are here are actually live, so I can do it live for someone and some other people. So if I'm going to choose someone at random, I don't know, is Corne Lamprey? I'm going to butcher that name, I apologize. Is Corne here? Just type in the comments if you're here. Or if anyone is actually on this list, can you just type your name? I'm going to zoom in. If anyone's here, type your name into the comments.
I can do a search for you too of a name and see if those people are here. Oh, we got one.
Awesome. Okay, well, you're the first one, Corne. I apologize if that's not how you say your name. So we're going to have some fun. So I'm going to create some logo types at first, and then we can have some fun with actual logos, because then we're going to put these logos into Mike's amazing tool as well. So start down here, you're going to see, I'm just seeing the comments, Adele, Suzanne, Craig, awesome. And I'm going to give someone who's not here a chance as well. So I challenge you to put into the questions your name. Actually, maybe not the questions, because that will, but anyone else that does want to get involved, I'm going to choose one person at random to do their logo as well. So please submit your name and 3 personality types. And also, I'm going to, for this one, choose a category. So are you like a fitness fanatic? Are you an outdoor person? Are you a tech guy? Just so we have some traits that we can use for the logo. So awesome. Let's get into it. So I'm going to start at, where was it? Is this an okay zoomed screen size for people, or should I go in further? Mike, I'm going to ask you for that one.
I haven't seen any people asking for it to zoom in since you zoomed in last time. What I'm seeing on my screen is a good overview of everything. But if you wanted to get closer on anything at any point, a zoom would be nice.
Okay, great, cool. So we have Corne here, down here, and where I usually start off with logo projects. Obviously, there's going to be a brief beforehand, and it's going to be much more detailed than what we're doing today. But I want to show you how we can actually just use 3 different words to really help define the personality of the logo we're going to create. And then we can get into some actual logo marks as well. So just 3 words like this. Corne is adventurous, creative, and passionate. So when we look at these typefaces here, we can see there's a lot of different feels to each of them. These are some of the top fonts that I use for design. So I often use this to start off with my designs, because it gets you I guess a 1,000-foot overview of where you could take this design. And I have what I call a type wall here. So anyone that's seen my processes before see that I've used this to start off projects, just to get a feel. There's thousands of other typefaces out there, which we'll get to. But right now I'm just going to stick with these to keep it simple. These are strong, they have a lot of legs, these fonts. So I wonder if we can, I'm just looking at the comments now. Okay, what is Mike? Where's Mike? What did you mean, Cam? Mike nailed it. Agree with what he suggested.
I think he was just saying that it's a good overview right now for zooming, but if you need to get in on anything specific, you could zoom farther.
Okay, so I'm just going to zoom up on these top fonts. So basically on the left we have the sans serif, and then serif, and some I guess some script ones, which are often not too often used in logo work or branding work. But it's also important to consider not just the logo, but how the logo is going to fit in with the whole brand's identity. So then, because it has to work everywhere and has to be consistent and work together. So let's talk about Cornet's logo. So adventurous, creative, and passionate. And we can look at some of these typefaces to see what actually matches to adventurous or creative or passionate. So there's different ways we can take this depending on what the business is, obviously, but let's have some fun with it. So I'm just going to use, I guess, when I think of adventurous, there's two different ways we could take it. So you could take it very like old school, or we could do it a little bit more modern. So just for the sake of this, I'm going to use, let's say, Din. So this is more of a modern look. So it's very bold, it's very compact. Let's come up with a tagline. Sorry, I'm going to zoom in a little bit for people. Another, just from knowledge, some typefaces that go together. These are two contrasting typefaces, for example. So the adventurous, creative. Let's go with that. The adventurous, creative. So that's a tagline, for example, that we can use for this this person. So we've got the basis of a logo now. The type, the tagline. What comes to mind when we're talking about adventure? So for me, often I'm not sure if you can see can you see my screen? Like my sketchbook and stuff, or is it just the screen?
I see your desktop screen with Illustrator. I see you, and then very, very tiny on your already small thumbnail is your side view. So I don't know if there's a way for you to focus that one.
Yep, let me see. Okay, focus screen, here we go. Let's see if that works. Okay, so often when I come up with different logos, I always brainstorm different things that relate to the name. So I'm just going with something adventurous right now. So in the middle I put adventure. This is like a classic mind map. I'm not sure if everyone here knows what it is, but
yeah, Jacob, the notebook is not what's in focus right now. Okay. Yeah, it's you, and then the notebook is on the side.
Yep. Yeah, so they probably won't be able to see it. I'm just going to do a quick one, and then I'll put it up to the screen.
Wonderful.
Oh, maybe I can swap it. I can't swap it.
Cool.
Okay.
Yeah, that's it.
Great. Cool. So I'll just give me a second. I'm going to quickly run through this. So a mind map, adventure, compass, outdoors. Some of the other words was creative. What else was there? It was passionate. So you can see here where am I? Yes.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah. Okay, great. So pretty much in the middle I have a circle. It says adventure, so for the scrappy writing, adventure, and then we have the other words that came to mind. So the passionate, creative, outdoors, and compass. So usually I do this for much longer, just to get a better understanding of the brand and some other ideas. But for the simple nature of this presentation, I'm just going to go with the things that came to my mind, which was compass and outdoors. So my next step would look at, I'd gather inspiration or do some more sketches based around this idea. For the sake of this presentation, I'm just going to go with compass and see what I can come up with a compass and something outdoors. But so the adventure's creative. It could be a compass. Often I'll just Google like things. You can't see my Googling, but I'm just Googling compass icon. And you can start to see different icon shapes. And you can start to explore this idea of icons. Can you see my screen now? I can't, well, once I close it, I can't see what I'm doing.
Yeah, well, we're still on the view where we're looking at your notepad.
Yep, great. So, okay, so I'm gonna go back to
there, yeah. But we've lost your audio. So Jacob, we have your screen, but we've lost your audio. Hello, everyone. I'm sure Jacob's going to get this handled really quickly here. Can you still hear my audio? Okay. Yep. Jacob can hear me. Great. All right. I'm sure Jacob will be right back with us. It probably was connectivity issues. Yeah, he's joining back up with us, so we'll be right back. During this time, you can ponder what all the sticky notes on the back of my wall here mean. And I'll give 5 hypothetical dollars to whoever figures it out.
All right, can you hear me?
You're back, Jacob. Yeah, I believe we can hear you.
Okay, awesome. Sorry about that, guys. I have no idea what happened. So I'm going to go back to my screen now. So I'm going to share my full screen. So basically, the mind map that I did, to keep things very simple, I did compass, outdoors, creative, passionate, and adventure. And all I did was Google compass just to see what we could use for, I guess, the logo if we, for one idea that we could go with. So a compass, we could use any of these. I really like this one up here. I'm obviously doing this very quickly just for this presentation, but it's not going to be any groundbreaking ideas here. But I just want to show you how my thinking works and how I often go about logos. It does often start with type because it does really convey a lot. So this is a super simple logo. It's very simple. It's versatile. There's nothing crazy new about it. But I'm just going to fly through some of these works. Okay.
A lot of people are asking if this is going to be a recording they can access later. That's true, right? They'll be able to access it.
Yep. Yeah. If you come to this link, you'll get the recording, and yeah. But do stick around because there is a special discount from Cmyk, only available to people that watch through this at the end of this. So that's the only benefit. I'm going to make you stick around, and as well as a few people I'm going to choose to create the logo. So you can start to see. Just with 2 different typefaces contrasting against each other and a simple mark that we can really create the whole identity quite quickly if once you have the basics. So that's just one thing I went with. Compass. Perhaps this compass becomes a tree because I had outdoors. You're pretty much combining two things. So perhaps it is a compass and a tree to convey this outdoor, adventurous, creative. So it's just, there's nothing groundbreaking here, but it's the idea of combining different ideas to create something unique. So once you run with it, you can really take this much further. So if you take this mind mapping idea and you come up with more ideas, let's say compass, it guides you. There's a northern light, or outdoors there's trees, there's lakes, there's maybe it's something more rugged. So instead of like a modern look, it could be, we can come back to this type wall again. I'm going to show a little hack that I use. So see how I have type wall written out here. All I do is, if I want to change this to the name, so I highlight what name, I'm going to change all of these type walls so I can see what it looks like in a different, so where is it? Find and replace. So I'm doing a simple find and replace. So anything that is written as type wall, I'm going to replace with corner. So you can find and replace all of them. Let's match case. So you can see everything in this left corner has changed. And then I'm going to do it for all the caps ones. This is quite a long name, so it's gone on to 2 levels. But this is a very quick way to see what different fonts look like with a different name. So as an example, let's say that we're doing Cornet Lampreche. I can't even say this name. I really apologize. Lampreche. let's say we're doing a fashion brand, for example. Perhaps these different these fonts are more appropriate than the other ones we use. So like this.
Yeah, they could probably use a little zoom in to get right up on those typefaces.
Okay, so thank you. I'm just making them a little bit bigger because they have gone to the next line. So the point I'm making here is that type plays a huge role, and this little exercise, what I call a type wall, is very powerful in conveying or trying out different fonts all in one glance to see what actually matches quite well. So when I look at this, when I think of the words that we came up with, the word map, this one actually comes to mind. It's like a bit of a retro feel down here. So let me zoom in. So this one, it has like a little bit of retro outdoorsy feel. So I'm going to use that as another version of this logo, just to show you how we can play with this idea of personality. Because that, when it comes to logos and brand identity, often it is about personality, and typefaces have a huge role in that. So I'm going to change this to that font. Let's make it lowercase to make it a little bit.
People are really, really loving the type wall, by the way. You're blowing people's minds.
Oh, really? Cool. Yeah, it's a very cool way to see all the types. So how to make a type wall. So the type wall is pretty much, you have to have the fonts installed on your computer, and you just write in what you want. I use type wall just as the idea, as the name, and then you set each font as what you have installed on your computer, and that's it. Then you just change it, use then find and replace. So this is the more retro feel. So the type here is outdoorsy, adventurous, a little bit more retro. I actually did a brand with this. So Waves to Wilderness I did recently. I can show you how that played out. So this is that retro font that I was talking about here. Perhaps we use something a little bit more, I don't know, I'm not a fan of this font, but you can start to see how it just has a different feel. One's more retro, one's more modern. So this was a brand I created a year or so ago, a rebranding, so Waves to Wilderness, and you can see it's actually using that same typeface here. And yeah, it kind of has that retro feel.
That was actually the typeface I was looking at when you said you wanted to try retro and modern. That was the one I was like, that's going to look great.
Yeah. So let's say something, let's go really adventurous. Maybe there was another one there. Memphis was another one I had there. Haven't got it installed. So the font program I use is called Font Explorer X Pro, which is awesome. I've used that for many years, and it's a great way to manage your fonts. And when you have bloody 60,000 of them, it's it's a lot. You need something like that. So I'm gonna do something. So you can actually use this program to do something what I'm doing like with the wall before. You can just use this program to feel different weights, so you don't have to activate all of them. But I wanted something a bit bolder. So it's activated now, and I can go into and use bold. So this is my artboard. I'm not sure how big you can see this, but basically I have it set up so it's not usually this big, but I have the swatches at the top. I have the character here. This is like my logo artboard because I have the swatches, then I have the fonts, the character down here, so I can have control over the bled in and the letter spacing and all of that, and then the Pathfinder tool and gradient tool. Yeah, this is usually what I use. The Glyph Panel I also use quite a lot when it comes to logos and typesetting. So you can see we've got 3 different looks here. Don't like this guy. Well, let's go another one. Let's go. This is more of like the freedom outdoorsy look. So. And you can have fun with the Glyphs panel down here. I wanted to show you that. So use different. Let's see if there's a letter that has it. A and P.
Are you looking for alternatives?
Yeah.
Sometimes there's a drop down that lets you it shows all alternatives. Where it says entire font in the drop down, I think you can just show alternates.
Oh man, I never knew that. Legend.
You're welcome.
That would have saved me years of time. So there's not many here, so this one. Anyway, we can use that one, but not too good. That was a terrible example, but anyway, we have four different logo types here, different looks and feels. And basically, it's not just the logo that you have to consider. You have to consider how everything's going to look together. So I'm going to use the Waves to Wilderness example because they're already built. So you can start to see, like, that's the logo, but then you're going to be using other elements in it as well. So this is their tagline. This is like a different version of the badge that we created, and some more. And this is the whole look together. So as you can see, that's just the typeface we use for the logo. It's very outdoorsy. It's got the waves, got the mountains, and the overall feel is modern but retro. And this I can't believe this was so related to what we randomly chose, but you can start to see how it plays. Just the typeface plays a huge role in what's going to come in the future, and that's why I started that type wall. You can start to combine different fonts. So this is DIN. This is actually what we used here, just a condensed version of it. And then, yeah, bringing in colors as well. So let's bring in some colors now, because then we can use it for the tool demo. So could use some dark brown, for example. I'm just going really cliche here for the sake of it, but like greens and browns, they're outdoorsy, right? Because the trees and nature are green and brown. So going further down, you can see the type and how they play. So there's different versions, like different weights, sorry. So DIN is bold here, semi-bold is this section, the font that we use for the logo, and this is the subcopy here. And then there's a supporting typeface, Northwell. I wonder if we can have that installed.
You said that font program was called Font Explorer X, right?
Yes, yep.
Okay, cool.
Okay, cool. So they have actually swatches and stuff. This may be a better example now. So it's definitely not like a logo font. It's just there's too much detail in it. So it's more of like a supporting typeface, like is used here. Like you can just use it sparingly, maybe the tagline and so forth. So that's how it all works together. Then you'll start to build out different versions of the font, the logo, sorry. So this is a good example because it shows that there's the stacked version, there's a square version. So there's subtle nuances here. The stacked triangle, it works in a triangle. There's a shape there, as you can see my cursor. Whereas this one is definitely for a square. And the difference is subtle there, but when you put it into things like for example this is a triangle shape, that scale works better than something in a square shape, which is like that. So there's also versions with or without a tagline. There's versions that would go from horizontal. So for example, a website header, it's good to have a horizontal version and a left aligned version as well. So when space is tight, then you're going to eventually build it out into different versions of, like, for your social media avatar. So it works in reverse and on normal as well. So that's once you've actually completed the look and feel. So I'm just going to use this one. So Mike, we can use this basic example if that's cool with you.
Yeah, sounds great.
Yeah, for your tool demo. I want to choose one person's name, but this Adventurous Creative was really a great one to choose because I could show all of these examples of how they're constructed. So talking about logo grids, this is something that someone asked in the questions of how to use the golden ratio and logo grids. So this, I hope people can see. So this is the same typeface. The mountain, I've used two shapes, which is basically the triangle shapes. And the golden ratio, if you haven't really studied or learnt about it too much, basically there's three sides, so A, B, B, and C. So side A is unique, side B and B are the same, and I can't remember the exact ratio, but there's I don't know, 3 point something.
1.16, I think.
1.16, yeah, sorry. That's used. And the idea is that see this section here, this is that line here, that's the intersection of where I put the wave and where also the triangles were as well. So it's not exact. I don't think you should ever follow grids exactly, because you need to optically align logos as well. So even though you can see this point here, this connecting point, the wave actually extends past that point to optically make it look more balanced. So that's why I use golden ratio with a grain of salt and grid structure, because often mathematically it's correct, but optically or visually it's not balanced. So we're getting a little bit detailed or a bit advanced here with that, but that's the next stage. But I did bring in the golden ratio because it is something that comes up quite a bit. So I'm going to show you another example of it. So this was one logo that actually used the golden ratio quite heavily. So you can see this investment management firm. Basically, it's a graph, and basically that's when you're making money. Basically, it's a good time to sell. So that's what the dot is all about. But if you go a little bit deeper behind the scenes of the golden ratio, you can start to see the Fibonacci swirl here. I've placed the grid on where the lines connect. So you can see this is the anchor point here. It's on the swirl of the Fibonacci swirl. Anchor point here, anchor point here, anchor point here, which is exactly where the dot ends, as well as here. So these are all the anchor points that create this look up here in the top left. And it can go further. You can create you can really use it a lot. But this was a perfect example to show you how to use the Fibonacci or golden ratio within your logo design. So it just becomes a little bit more balanced and has a little bit more structure to it. But just use it with caution. If you don't really know how to use it, or if you're using it for the sake of using it, I don't recommend that, because I think it's a tool that should be used with caution because of the optical side of things. Well, what I didn't talk about was the different types of logos. So what we created earlier was more of an abstract mark, just for the sake of speed of this call. But there are different types of logos. So the abstract marked, but kind of like that A or the compass that we used before. And then there's a mascot type of logo. So let's say KFC or any other, like Ronald McDonald. Sometimes they don't use it heavily in their marketing, but KFC uses this symbol or this mascot heavily. There's the combination mark, which is kind of a combination of type and an element. This is a very literal logo. It has the logo, the business's main service within the logo, which makes sense in this instance. But I also say that with caution, because this is the most common mistake I see with logo designers in the beginning. They'll try to put what the business does in the logo. So let's say they sell computers, they want to put a computer in the logo, or the name is Burger King, and they're going to try to use the initials B and K. These are two most common things that I see early designers do, combining just the two letters of the name to create a symbol, or trying to put what the business does in the logo. What a logo is for identification. That's the simplest way to think about it. And it doesn't have to literally say what the business does. So Apple doesn't show iPhones or Mac computers within their logo. It's literally an apple with a distinguishing feature to it. So something distinct, which is the bite out of it, which comes back to those principles of what makes a good logo design. NASA, this is a very strong logo in my opinion. It's stayed pretty true over the ages, even though it's been very futuristic. It's the logo is actually made out of the letters. So it's a letter mark. Then the word mark is the one like Google. Then you have emblem logos, which are more tiered towards like universities and schools and so forth. So I won't get too much more into that. Let's have one more fun with someone that submitted a name. So just want to show you Waves to Wilderness. These are some other explorations I went on. So rather than, let's go back to that mind mapping idea. I use the compass, outdoors, creative. So for this project, it looks like I explored mountains, water, X marks the spot, the W and the W from like waves to wilderness, and the mountains and the sea obviously relates back to the waves and the wilderness. So very literal, this logo, waves and wilderness, which makes it a fun one to work with. So I'm just going to look back at the comments now. I've been rambling on for a while. So let's go. I'm just going to answer some questions. There seems to be a lot in here. I'm not sure if you found any, Mike, or if you're...
Yeah, we've people have been following along with what you're doing, and then occasionally a topic will pop up. People were talking about CMYK versus RGB, what you should start your design from. So if you want to address that, that was a good question that came up.
So I often start with mind mapping, sketching. Obviously, we haven't sketched in this process just because of the sake of time and don't want to scan things in and all of that. But it's always great to start off with a detailed brief for the whole brand and what you're trying to achieve with the brand, not just the logo. And then going into sketching, research, and then get into the fun stuff as well. So often I start with a type because type plays a huge role in the whole identity, as I said. So that's how I personally start. Everyone works in different ways.
Cool. The other question was about where you're getting your fonts from, and I think people are interested in where you can get your pro fonts or where a person who's starting off can also get free fonts.
Yeah. So I had a lot of these fonts from an agency, and once I go to use them, then I buy the license for them for like my clients or whatever they need. So I was fortunate enough to get a big database. But in terms of where I get them from, so My Fonts is probably my favorite site, as well as the bundles from Design Cuts. They have some awesome value with some really awesome fonts that you can get. You can also buy them single, but yeah, they're my two favorite ones. There's also some more obscure ones as well that you can find. There's so many foundries out there. It's that's why I start with just those 40 or 38 that I use up here. So these are definitely very strong ones. Okay, so some other we'll get into yours soon, Mike. I want to do one more person, so just so I can, someone that came here in the comments. I'm not sure if you found one or there's a lot of comments. So.
Oh, as far as somebody who's here right now that that didn't submit earlier, and you're going to pick one of their logos. Yeah, there was definitely a section where they came through.
Yeah, it doesn't let me scroll back up that. Yeah, it doesn't let me scroll back that far. Oh well.
I'm managing to go back a little bit. I might be able to find somebody very soon.
I actually went a bit deeper on that one, so we'll have less time for the rest. But I'm going to send you this one so you can get ready for your presentation.
Wonderful. Yeah, I think you could probably just ask people again for their name and the three adjectives.
So I haven't tested how this. It's always good to see how logos work in reverse as well. So because that's what Michael is going to go through next. I need to use the Pathfinder tool to get rid of the background. So you can see here that the contrast is not great. So I'm just going to change this to just a brighter green.
Nice.
So outdoor, creative, adventurous. There was a tagline in there. I'm going to put the tagline in because I know you're.
Yeah, we'll work with it.
Okay. Okay, so now we have the basis of what Mike is going to use for his program. We have the tagline, we have the reverse, and I have to outline the fonts as well. Okay, create outlines. Just going to get rid of all these artboards. Okay, I'm going to save this out. And send it to Mike. It won't let me send an AI file. Interesting.
We can always do like a WeTransfer or something like that.
Yeah. You sent me an AI file in practice, right? It's always
I did. Yeah, I've got the native desktop application, so maybe it's a difference between the web and the application.
Okay. All right. Okay, so WeTransfer. Hold with us, guys. We're going to get this file to Mike.
And that's Michael at the logo package. Yeah, a lot of people resubmitted their names, so I think you'll be able to pick one pretty easily.
Okay. I'm just gonna send you an email here.
Sure.
Okay. Okay, so back to my screen, right? So I'm going to look at the question now because there's a few that come in here. So how to modify, oh yeah, that's a great question. So modify an existing type without ruining the aesthetics. So it depends on the project. I'm just going to read some other questions so I can answer them as well. The minimum size, the detail of color ratio, I did that one. We're not going to get into proposals and costing, that's a totally different topic. Developing a mindset for asking the right questions. That's a great question to define a great brief. Okay, cool. All right, so modify an existing type. That is a great one. I'm glad you asked that. So let's go back to the type wall. I'm going to use, I don't know, I use a font that people use a lot. So let's go with Gotham. Okay, so I'm just going to use Gotham. Going to outline the type so you can modify the details. Let's say that we want to make the let's make the font a little bit. I'm going to choose a different word. Don't ask me what this is, but I just wanted to show some examples of, I guess, terminals that you can change. So I've outlined the type. Then you can go in and let's say we want it to be more of a rounded look. You have to ungroup the type, and then it's a matter of changing the anchor points to what you want to achieve. So let's say we want to make it a little bit more rounded. So I'm just going to get rid of some of these anchor points. Let's move this down. I'm just making it a rounded version. So it's really about just once you know the anchor tool, you can edit them a little bit stronger. So yeah, basically I've changed the terminal. Obviously we can fiddle with it a little bit further, but just for the sake of this, I'm going to keep it pretty rough. So there's a little bit of I could fix up here, but just to change to show you how that's done. This is an example of modifying an existing typeface. So then we have, as you have a unique feel. We can fine tune some of the anchor points and so forth, but you can see that it's something already unique. Perhaps we combine them. So now it's so you can see it's a more of a cut, like you're using Gotham, which is a very popular typeface, and now you have something a little bit more unique to what it was before. So you can see the differences. Obviously we need to fine tune some of these corners, but you can see how now it has more of a unique feel to it as well. So that's how you modify existing typefaces, and you can have a lot of fun with it once you know the anchor point tool, and you can get to know letters a little bit better. Cool. So determining the minimum size of a logo to go on small applications. The minimum size, it depends on the logo and how much detail there is. So simple logos are more versatile, and that's one of the good principles of logo design. Successful logo design is to make them simple, so they can go to different sizes very well, and to even the sizes of, let's say, a ballpoint pen. So Mont Blanc, I know that's not how you say it, the French. I guess they started as a pen company, but now they do everything else. But they have a very small logo that's kind of like a star, and that's a unique identifying star. But it actually works so well because it's on the size of their pen, and it's a very identifiable feature that they can use on their brand. So point blank. You can even see, yeah, here on this page that little star, and you can see it on their pen and their logo. So it's a small identifying feature, and it can scale very, very small. So it really depends. So let's say you have Harvard's logo, which is that kind of crest that we saw earlier, then it's not going to work as well small. So it really does depend. Okay, so we are 50 minutes in, so I think we should get into Mike's. Did you get the file?
I did. I was able to download the file. That's great.
Okay, great, awesome. So we're going to get into file types and how you can use different, files for different purposes. And that was kind of a good lead-in, the last question, because we can talk about files and when and where to use them, and so you can really have one up for your clients as well. Or seem like a pro. All right, I'm just going to have a quick squiz through the comments to make sure there's no other ones I want to get into.
Sure.
I did want to do more people's names. It just, I went deeper on one, so I really do apologize I didn't get to everyone's names. Corne was the first person to respond, so I just went with her, it just worked out very well. So thank you everyone for the comments and tuning in. I'm going to give the reins over to Mike now, who's going to go through file types and this awesome extension tool that will save you tons of time when you actually save out files. So thank you, Mike.
Yeah, excellent. So I'll need to get my screen shared. And I'm ready to do that when you're ready.
Okay. Yeah, you can go.
Okay.
Am I still screen sharing on my screen? No. Okay, good. You're all right.
All right. Just a quick check with everyone that they can see the screen. Go ahead and write yes in the comments if you can see what's going on.
Yep.
Okay, awesome. All right, so yeah, I wanted to talk, well, first off, my name is Michael Bruny-Groth, and Jacob invited me on today to talk to you about how to make really professional logo packages for your clients. So he did some really cool logo design work and taught you a little bit about that. But once you're done with that process, there's a whole nother element where you have to deliver these files to the client. So I'm going to talk to you about those logo files, and then I'm going to show you how you can make them pretty quickly. I'm a graphic designer with over a decade of experience. I've worked for agencies. I've also done freelance. So that's a little bit about me. All right, so logo file formats explained. How can you make sure that you give your clients the right files, the right logo files every time? All right, so clients can sometimes maybe ask for strange file formats that you haven't heard of before, or sometimes they'll email you after a project is over asking you for a one-off logo file request. Vendors, people who print things, printers or embroiderers, people who make t-shirts, sometimes they use older technologies and they're going to ask you for some file formats that maybe you didn't provide or that you haven't provided in the past. But I can promise you that the moment that you decide not to give one of these file formats to your clients is the moment that they're going to write you an email and ask you for it. So you're better off covering all your bases from the beginning. So which logo file formats do your clients need? Well, that kind of comes down to 4 questions. Who's going to be using the logos? What are they using the logos for? Where are these logos going to be used? And why is any particular file format the correct format for any particular application? So let's go through it. Who for? Who are the types of people that need to use logo files most often? Well, there's your client. And your client has very specific uses that I'll get into in a moment for your logos. There's other designers, right? So you might just be doing the logo, and then there's an in-house designer, or the client is going to work with an agency or another designer to make other designs. So designers need to work with your logo files. Developers may need to work with your logo files. Perhaps your client has a website, or they are developing an app or something like that. Their developers are going to need to have access to logo files as well. And then finally, there's vendors, people like the printers, the t-shirt makers, signage, those types of people also will require your logo files. And as I'm moving through here, there's a list of file formats in each of these categories, and I'm going to expand on that. But I just wanted to let you know, I just wanted to talk about who are the types of people that typically need logo files from you. So what are these files used for? Okay, your client, typically a client is really concerned about running the day-to-day business. And so what they're going to need are like your classical web and digital file formats, and they're going to need something that they can open up and preview, because they are making like social media posts, or they're updating their social media. They're putting their logo on Word documents, such as letterheads or memos. They're building out sales presentations in PowerPoint, or they're customizing their email signature to convey their brand. Lots of these client type things use very classical types of file formats. And again, I'll explain why these file formats are good. But right now, what are these individuals using the files for? A designer, you guys are all designers, so I don't have to tell you, but everything from web design, banner ads, animations, marketing materials. So designers really need versatile logo file formats. And then your developer. The developer, like I said earlier, is maybe working on a website or an app, but there's also marketing emails and that type of content that developers will be working on, landing pages for advertising promotions, and things like blogs. And finally, the vendor is going to be doing things like your stationery system, right? They are creating, or they're printing the business cards, the letterheads. They're making the swag. They're doing banner stands for events, or even, putting vehicle decals on the sides of trucks. I'm not sure if print is still a thing, but people are making direct mail as well. So these are the different types of things that these individuals are using your logo files for. Now, where are these files meant to be? They're either meant to be in two places. They're meant to be in print, or they're meant to be digital. Print files typically should be vector files, and I'm sure you've heard of vector and pixel, and you're probably well versed in what that means. But just as an overview, a vector is a file where the shapes within it are described mathematically. There's essentially an algorithm that renders the shape. And what this means is that you can tell that file to be any size, and the math will always work out. So your file can be scaled up or down pretty much infinitely without losing resolution. Digital files, for the most part, are based off of pixels, and pixels are always the same size. So if you want to scale up an image that's pixel-based, some computer program has to figure out how to generate a bunch of pixels that weren't there before, or if you make something smaller, the computer program has to figure out how to take away pixels that were there. And so what that leads to is sort of blurrier images, things that aren't as crisp. Now, Illustrator files, PDF files, and EPS files are all going to be perfect for print. And that is because they can contain vector information. They also can contain Cmyk information. And I'm sure you've heard of Cmyk versus RGB. So Cmyk, in short, is just cyan, magenta, yellow, and black. And printers use varying combinations of those colors of ink to create any color that you would need to print out. Whereas with digital files, they're using RGB, which uses the colors red, green, and blue coming from light pixels on your screen. They combine that light to make colors. So RGB is for digital because it's using light, and Cmyk is for print because it's using ink. And most print files should be vectors, and most digital files will be raster or pixel based. There is one exception on the digital side, which is the SVG file format. SVG file format is a relatively new file format. It stands for Scalable Vector Graphic. And this is a great file to provide to your clients because it is a vector file format for the web, meaning you can change the size of the logo on the website to any, as big or as small as you need to, and it won't lose resolution. So these are the places where your logos are going to be presented. Now, lastly, why are any of these file formats good for any particular job? Well, scalable. Like I said before, vectors are scalable. They don't lose resolution. So the file formats that are scalable are PDFs, Adobe Illustrator files, SVG files, and EPS. You'll notice, or you may remember, that these are all vector files as well. So vector equals scalable, and those four file formats are always scalable. Editable. So this is important for designers. Sometimes they need to get in and grab just a certain part of the logo, or they need to make something bigger or smaller. So this list is exactly the same as the scalable, and PDFs, Adobe Illustrator files, SVG files, and EPS files are all also editable. Universal. Universal means that anyone can open up this file type. If you were to send a client an Illustrator file or an EPS, they might not have Adobe Illustrator. They might not be able to open and preview those files. But a PDF, a PNG, and a Jpeg are all file formats that everyone should be able to open up and view on their computer. And lastly, there's transparency. So if you make logo artwork, and you're going to put that logo on top of anything other than white, you're going to put it on a solid color, a gradient, an image, you're going to want the background of that logo file to show through. So that is what transparency is. So PDFs, EPSs, PNG, SVG, and Adobe Illustrator files all can contain transparency. The only file, actually, that we've talked about that does not include transparency is a JPEG. A JPEG, no matter what you do to it, will always export with a background. The color is usually white, but it could be a different background color, but there's no way to remove the background from a JPEG file format. So now that we've gone through and talked about who needs the logo files, what are they using them for, where are they being used, and why are they good, you might have realized that this is a lot of file formats. And you might be imagining yourself having to go through and making all of these different file formats for your logo, and it seems a little daunting. So what I wanted to talk to you about today is my tool called Logo Package Express. Logo Package Express is an extension for Adobe Illustrator. It's a plugin. And once you install it, it allows you to take a logo, make many, many variations of that logo, and export them into all these file types that we talked about. Not only will it do that, but it will name the logo files and sort them into a really easy to use folder structure that your clients are going to be able to understand. So if you don't mind, I would like to give you a demo today of that tool using the logo that Jacob created earlier in the Crowdcast. So do you think we're ready for that, Jacob, or were there some questions that
Absolutely.
came in first?
Yeah. One person said, was just after the deliverables of that presentation, I said, yes, there's a free cheat sheet that is provided as well for this. So we'll get into that.
That's correct.
Yeah. So there's also,
awesome.
Yeah, jump into it.
Cool. All right. Well, I have the logo that you sent me over here. And I think at first I'm not going to work with the logo type. But anyway, so Logo Package Express.
That was more of the tagline, yeah?
Yes, I'm sorry. The Adventurous is the tagline. I'm going to work with that a little bit later. So when you download and install an extension, the way that you can open it up is you can go up to Window, and then there's an Extensions option, and then that's where you can find all of the extensions you've downloaded. So over on the right side of my screen here, I have the extension window for Logo Package Express. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to take a logo, generate all the different color variations that we would need to send our client, and then export those files. So the way that I do this is I take and make a selection of the final logo artwork. I click Set Logo over in the extension, and that will bring that logo into a new document at exactly the same size and using the same colors that we used in the original. And then we're going to choose the different components of the logo that we want to isolate. So this is something I didn't talk about in the presentation, but a lot of people in the chat earlier were talking about the difference between a word mark and a logo type and a letter mark. And all of these things that make up a logo, you should also consider delivering those pieces individually to your client instead of just the full lockup of the logo, because your client may want to use, our nice compass icon. They might want to use that as their app icon. So they're going to need that separate from everything else. And they may also want to use the logo type. Maybe that's what they put in the footer of their website or something like that. So what I'm going to do in the extension now is I'm going to set these different components. So I just make a selection of the logo mark or the symbol or the icon, whatever you would like to call it. And I will choose Set Logo Mark. And then I will go to the logo type and I will click Set Logo Type. And now this is where the really fun magic happens. I'm going to click Make Web Logos, and you will see that Logo Package Express is going to automatically take all of that artwork and recolor it and create all of the different color combinations that you'd want to send to your client. So we have the logo mark by itself, we have the logo type by itself, and then we have the full logo combined. So at this point, you are looking at a grid of logos, and you may decide that you don't want some of these variations. Maybe with grayscale, you've decided that the black version is going to be all you need, so you don't need grayscale. If there's anything that you do not want to include in your logo package, you simply delete it from the artboards. So I'm going to go ahead and delete grayscale just for this demonstration. And then what I do is I come back over to the extension window and I choose Export Web Logos. And I'm going to give it a client name. So for this, I'm just going to use the initials, CL. And then I will browse to the folder that I want to save this to. So I've got a logo package folder here. And now I just click Create Logo Package. And what it's going to do is it's going to start exporting these files. and it opens up the folder that we chose, and it starts creating folders and exporting all of these files. So the files are getting named automatically, you can see, and they're being sorted into a folder structure. And this is all happening very, very quickly. I challenge anyone who wants to get into a logo packaging competition manually versus using the extension, because it's very quick. So now we have all of the web versions of our file. And by web versions, I mean these are going to be RGB, okay? So that's only half of what we...
Mike,
yeah.
Someone asked, is it Adobe RGB or sRGB?
I think it's sRGB.
Okay.
So we've made the web logos, but that's really only half of what we need to provide. We also need to provide those Cmyk logos for printing. So now that I've done the web logos, I can click Make Print Logos. And this is going to go through and it's going to remake the logos. It's changed the document color mode to Cmyk, so we're in the right color mode. And we're going to have a few more variations in this version because Logo Package Express can also automatically convert your colors to the closest Pantone match. So you'll see down here at the bottom, we have Pantone coded. And I'm just going to make a copy of that. And I'm going to drag it up and compare it to our original colors. And you can see we have a really, really close match. And if anybody has worked with Pantone swatches before, you know how laborious it can be to go through the swatch books and dig around for hours trying to find like the perfect swatch. Now, I'm not going to lie, that's the best way to guarantee like perfect consistency. But if you're just starting out and you don't have Pantone swatch books or anything like that, this is a really reliable way to get Pantone colors for your logo. So we provide those Pantone colors for these inverted versions as well as for the full color versions. So now all we have to do is go to export print logos, and I'll just save everything the exact same way as I did before. And now what's going to happen is before we had a digital folder, and now we will also have a print folder inside of each one of these parent folders. And once this export runs through and is completed, we will have generated dozens of logo files in lots of different file formats for our clients. And you'll have done it automatically in a matter of about 3 minutes, certainly under 5 minutes once you get the hang of it. Now, it's important to note at this point that for expediency in the demonstration, I didn't choose all of the file formats that are available. So I'll get into that in a moment. But what I wanted to do is just run through the very basic demo of how Logo Package Express works. And very shortly here, we will be done. So the congratulations screen has popped up. The logo package is complete. And as you can see here, as I scroll, we have dozens and dozens of files, all sorted very intuitively, named with a good naming convention that your client should understand. So that's the basic demo. Were there any questions that came through during that time, Jacob?
How much is this? So then we got into it. Nothing major. No.
Okay.
Yep.
Excellent. Yeah, we'll definitely talk about that at the end here. So some of the people on the call may already have Logo Package Express, and I thank you if you do. But today was the release of the newest version of Logo Package Express, and there are some really cool new features. So if you don't mind, I am going to go ahead and show what those new features are for people. Does that sound good?
Someone was asking, could you zoom into the filing structure?
Yeah. I'm gonna try something where I zoom in on my whole screen. Does that translate on the share?
Yes, it does.
Okay, cool. So I'll scroll through. And for anybody who is on a Mac, if you ever want to zoom in on your whole screen, you can just hold the Control key and then use your scroll wheel or your trackpad and scroll to zoom in and out of your screen. So I know the stream makes it a little choppy, so hopefully you can read the names here a little bit better. So that is the file structure.
Awesome. So
cool.
There's a few questions just before you go to the next spot. Can you specify the legacy format when saving?
Currently, it's going to save your files in the most recent version of Adobe Illustrator. I'm always taking feedback though, so if legacy files turn out to be something that's really important, it can be added. It is important to note that only the Illustrator files and the EPS files are really affected by that. I guess PDFs might be as well, but printers are usually up to date on those things, so you should be okay. All right.
Another question. Sorry. So, what Pantone library do you suggest for print from Adobe? I'm not sure if that's related.
Yeah, it's somewhat related. So the Pantone library that we are using is the standard solid coded and solid uncoded. We're not using metallic chips or like ultra neon chips or anything like that. But your standard color chips are really what you want to be doing for logos anyways, because the metallics and stuff like that are more for invitations and really fancy designs. I think if you're McDonald's or something like that, your packaging is never going to have metallic on it. So the standard chips should be just fine.
Great. That's all.
Cool. Okay, excellent. So how can we customize these results even more? That's really the challenge I was looking to solve with the new release of Logo Package Express. So what I want to show you is some of these settings. If we go into the settings tab, the first option is all the file formats. So you can see, I have some of these unchecked to make the export faster for the demonstration, but you can get SVG, Illustrator files, EPS, everything that I talked about in that file format demonstration are things that you can export from this program. But the first really big feature that I tackled with the new version of Logo Package Express is file naming. So I'll go ahead and zoom in on my screen again, and hopefully that will be a little more high fidelity. I'm not sure that I'm going to be able to. Yeah, I'll try moving this should probably work a little better. Okay. So what you can do is you can start with your file naming convention. Do you like to have dashes between the words in your file names? Do you want them capitalized or lowercase? And all that stuff is customizable. But what's really cool is when we start to get into the settings lower down. So there's a lot of people from countries all over the world on this chat right now, which is super cool. And a lot of you probably deliver your logo files in languages other than English. So what you can do with this naming is you can change every single word that makes up the file names and the folder names to any language that you want. You just have to translate it yourself going through here. That's one really great use case for naming customization. Something that might be a little more common is just people who have different names for different things. So for example, earlier we were talking about letter marks and word marks, and I'm calling that a logotype, or at least some version of it I'm calling a logotype. So maybe you want to call this a letter mark instead. So if you just type in letter mark to the naming field and you tab over, you'll see that this whole column has been updated to say letter mark. And that will also translate into your file and folder names when you export. Another example is that sometimes people they would rather call the black version of the logo black and the white version of the logo white. But by default, it's reverse and one color. So again, I wanted to give you total customization. You can come in and you can change the name to white, and you can change black or one color to black, and you see it updates on the artboard right away. So that's the file naming customization that has recently been added. Another way you can customize these files is in the scale tab. So when we're exporting logos, the vector files, like I said before, they can be scaled up or down to any size. So whatever the dimension of the file is kind of irrelevant. But when you're exporting a JPEG or a PNG, then those sizes are very relevant. So you can choose a width and a resolution for all of the JPEG and PNG files that you export from Logo Package Express. And all you have to do is come in and add multiple scales. And you can change the units, you can change the resolution. And a lot of you who are familiar with Illustrator probably know about the export for screens panel. So I'm going to open that up really quickly. This is probably something you're familiar with inside of Illustrator. And it also has this ability to add scales, but it only allows you to pick a size or a resolution. And so Logo Package Express is taking that to the next level by allowing you to set both a resolution and a size all at the same time. So if you add all these different sizes, and a good example would be like exporting app icons, right? So if I change, or social media avatars, for example. So if I've got some settings that are set up specifically for social media, I can save that out as a preset. Or maybe I have just a standard sizes I like to give for webs or for web logos. I can also save that out as a preset. And all of these files will get exported in one go in Logo Package Express, according to whatever settings you put in the scale. So you can customize the file names and you can customize the size of your logos. The next major feature that has been added for customization is the ability to add padding around your logo files. Now, this is called clear space when you're talking about branding and brand guidelines. It's just the area around a logo where other elements should not be placed so that the logo maintains its kind of identity, I guess. So what you can do is you come to the padding tab and you can just put in a dimension, and you can see that automatically that padding has been applied to all of these artboards. And you can also decide to unlink the padding and put in totally custom sizes for any one of these sides, right? So now I've got uneven padding on the left and right. This is something you can also use. You can kind of hack it to make square artboards so that you can export avatars for social media and that sort of thing. But mainly this, yeah.
I had a few people asking about the best size to supply, like for JPEGs and PNGs and things.
Yeah, perfect. I'm happy to answer that. I think you probably have an opinion too, Jacob. But my answer is, I like to give the client something small, something kind of medium-sized, and something large. And the way I've set that up inside of the extension right now is I've done a 300. That's going to work in like invoicing software and things that clients typically use. I've set up a 900. That's going to be really good for social media. And I've set up a 1200 just in case they're doing maybe like a presentation or something where they need the logo really big. So these three sizes are not by any means a rule that you need to follow, but I think it's good to give a small, a medium, and a large. What do you think, Jacob?
Yeah, I also give it even a really large one because sometimes they use those larger versions instead of like the EPS files, for example. They just see large, and so it's kind of like a fail-safe. So probably just add one more.
Absolutely, yeah, like a 2000 or something. Cool. Right. So the padding just allows you to add space around your logo files, and all of the files will be exported with that space should you choose to add it. So those are the really big new features that have come to Logo Package Express. There's additional settings in here, but I think unless people have really specific questions, this has been an overview of Logo Package Express and how quickly and easily you can make all of the logo files that you need and send your clients all of those file formats so that they get everything that they need. And if anyone has questions, I'm totally happy to answer them.
Yeah, there's not too many questions. It was more just people saying awesome.
Nice. Well, thank you.
Yeah.
Well, great. Yeah. So I know there were other questions from earlier. I don't know where you'd like to go with that.
Yeah. So I wanted to mention there's a little green button at the bottom of this this presentation, which will take you to the Logo Package Express website where you can buy Mike's awesome tool. We have a special launch. There's a special launch discount at the moment, which is $20 off, and you can get an extra $5 off for the duration of this presentation for about an hour afterwards. You can get an extra $5 off, just as an extra incentive to those that are actually taking action. And you can just get a bigger discount for a reward for staying in and tuning in for this long. So yeah, that's a green button at the bottom. So it's an amazing tool, save you a ton of time, as you can see. Very powerful stuff. So thank you so much, Mike, for sharing. I'm going to
Yeah,
go
thank
through
you.
some of these. I'm going to go through some of those other questions. There's a couple here and there that I just want to answer. If you have any last minute questions, chuck them in the comments, and we'll do a quick Q&A at this stage with me and Mike. And yeah, so just send them in. For now, so are you able to change the space between the exported artboards without manually dragging everything?
Okay. Yeah, the space between the artboards doesn't really have anything to do with the final output. So those individual artboards will just be output as the size of the artboard. So you're never going to get like a whole big grid of logos like you saw there. So there's no reason to adjust the size.
Okay. If a logo will be used in online and print, what color format do we select at the time of artboard opening?
Okay. Yeah, I saw this question come through earlier, and I had some time to think about it if you'd like me to take it on.
Yep.
Yeah, okay. So there's many different, theories about what to do. I'll just tell you what I personally like to do. For me, I talked about those CMYK and RGB colors earlier. RGB is a wider color gamut, meaning there's more possible colors, brighter colors, more vivid colors than CMYK. And what I would never want to do is get really attached to a really bright RGB color that's really cool and then find out that it doesn't have a CMYK equivalent. So I like to start with CMYK because then I know I can find an RGB that's going to look exactly the same. Whereas if I start with RGB, I might not get a CMYK color that's exactly the same.
Yeah, but I also, I often, depending on the project and the industry, often it is more of a digital-based industry. So starting in the RGB space makes more sense, especially if you're doing some pretty bright, vivid gradients, or for example, which is pretty common these days in online sites. So it really depends on the project. Other questions. So how do you balance the quality of free fonts versus paid fonts? And do you use a high quality, high cost font for the logo and then suggest to your client that they use a similar free font for their website and other collateral? So it depends on the project as well. I hate using that, but the idea is that whatever is right for the project, whatever typeface you do choose, you're using that for a particular reason, right? So if they've paid you, invested in you to create their identity, and that's the perfect typeface for the project, like why would the client not want to use that? So the cost is quite small relatively to the big picture. I know some typefaces or fonts can actually get quite expensive, but most of them these days are under $100, so it's pretty small relatively. But there are free alternatives for sure. So a quick Google can find some alternatives, and sometimes some fonts can't be used on the web either. So there's that thing too. But end of the day, I try to convince clients to invest in them. Yeah. Okay, so a few more questions. How do you deal with color harmony schemes? It's probably not relevant. How is outgoing sizes for exported files determined, and what sizes are the exported file sizes? I think you touched on that already.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Curious about gradients and transparent fills. What was that, Sabra? Can you just clarify what you meant by that? For logo. Okay. So there's not too many more questions. If I've missed one, please send it in the comments. We'll get to it. How is resolution handled for exported files? I think you touched on that.
That's actually important. Adobe Illustrator doesn't do a very good job of actually doing the correct resolution. Oftentimes, if you export something from Illustrator and you thought it was set to 300 ppi, you'll open it up in Photoshop and it'll just be a much bigger file, but the resolution will be incorrect. And I'm happy to let you know that with our export process through Logo Package Express, we have fixed all of that. So the resolution is going to be accurate to what you set in our panel. So that's a great update.
Okay, awesome. Someone else asked about gradients and how it handles that versus flat fills.
Okay. Yes. So gradients are not going to be any problem for the web files. They're not necessarily going to be any problem for the CMYK files. Where you get into trouble is with Pantone, because Pantone is just a solid one color ink. And when you try to mix just one solid ink with another one solid ink as that gradient fills in, sometimes it can be really ugly. So my philosophy with Logo Package Express was to let you manually recolor the Pantone options, but gradients in CMYK and gradients in RGB are totally fine, and Logo Package Express handles them no problem.
Okay. Cool. Some other questions. How do you determine what's the best logo for the client? How do you choose the best design? That really depends on the brief and what's being determined earlier. So there's so many different solutions you can come up when it comes to logo design, but you have to consider the whole identity, how it works in context, especially in the real world. So mocking it up in certain applications is a very powerful way to ensure that it actually works. And that way you can actually cut out some logos and fine tune or get a short list. Okay, just scrolling through the questions. A lot of people ask about the recording. So after this, it takes a few minutes just to summarize and package it all up. But then if you reload the page, you will be able to get the recording. And there's also a cheat sheet available at the website. So if you click through to the Logo Package website or even my blog, there is a cheat sheet that you can download with all the file types as well. Yes. So when's the next session? We'll see. I had fun. It was fun. It was a little rushed in terms of doing the design, and everything was so slow because I had to zoom in and whatnot. But I had some fun, a lot of fun. So, how long did it take you to develop the plugin?
Yeah, I had to make a version myself, which was not anything like the plugin, but kind of did the same thing first. And then once it seemed like people were using it and they liked it, then I had to hire a developer. But for me to actually, I had to design the way it looks and the functions, and that's what all these stickers behind me are, like the workflows of going from one screen to the next. The first version took about 500 hours for me to do, and another couple hundred hours for the developer to make. And this upgrade I've been working on for 9 months. So it's a very laborious process, but it's very fun too. Yeah,
and it's you just want to get the word out to everyone else. Like, it's going to save so much time across the digital space. So slowly but surely. Any exciting upcoming topics? Most likely, I'm working on some, but stay tuned. Nothing that I can disclose just yet. How to develop a mindset? I think we asked that one. Laser, okay. How to get a happy client? So determining that's a good question. How to get a happy client is understanding what they want, right? If you know what they want, you can deliver it. And that's by asking deep questions and understanding truly what they're trying to do with their business and brand. A lot of the time people I just come to you saying, I just want a logo design, but what they're trying to do is something greater than that. So you have to consider the logo is just one part of a brand, and you need to talk to your client and really just try to uncover what they're trying to do with their business, what their goals are, and that way you can help them get to that position, and that is how you get a happy client. Okay, so someone asked, do you need to be good at drawing for logo design? I personally can't draw stick figures, so yes, you don't actually have to be good at drawing. You have to be good at coming up with ideas and translating them into designs, and that doesn't necessarily mean you have to be a great drawer, but you can be a great illustrator, I guess Adobe Illustrator, or great with any other tool that can create logos.
Yeah, that question's kind of related to sketching, right? Like, people see that you start with sketching and they think, oh, I've got to be able to draw something that looks like a good logo. But really, I mean, if you can draw a triangle, then you know that you've got a mountain in your logo. I mean, it's not, you don't have to be amazing by any means.
So let's look at this. Like, this is just proof. So these are my sketches. These are just like rough sketches, and none of them are like final logos. Can you see?
Do your front cam. Yeah, do the cam in front of your face.
Yeah,
there you go.
Yeah. So there we go. So that's my drawing skills. They're pretty rough, right? but they can translate into ideas on the computer, and it's all mathematical, so you can get away with it. So how long is the logo package Express 25 off for? Do you have a discount for your launch package? How long does that go for?
Yeah, so you can get $20 off for the entire week from August 3rd until August 9th. But Jacob and I set up a special deal for people who were on this crowdcast where you can get $25 off. And I believe, Jacob, that you wanted to run that for an hour or two after the crowdcast.
Exactly. So for people that are live here, that's going to be live for 1 hour only. So that's the extra incentive. So cool. Yes, it works on both PC and Mac. You can, on the buy page, you can choose which one you want to download. After setting the logo and generating formats, can you save the file and come back to it later to export the formats, or do you have to do everything in one go?
The working file that has the grid of logos is kind of a temporary thing. It's just a means to export the files. You could certainly save it, but it's not going to have any connection to the extension once you're done. It's very quick. It takes about 4 seconds to generate those variations. So you have to run it again. But you could save out the working file just as a reference later to have all of those different variations in one place, certainly. But it's not going to be connected to the extension.
Okay. Yeah, the master file you're talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the page, once you click it, the button, and it exports all the, not exports, it creates all the logos within Illustrator. That's the master file, and you can save that file. Okay. What are you expecting with the move towards Logo Express 3? What do we look forward to?
I wouldn't say 3. I'd say 2.5. Two things. One is the ability to export custom variations. And what I mean by that is a lot of times you have a logo with a horizontal orientation where the mark is, or the icon is next to the type. And sometimes the icon is above the type. And you provide both of those variations or many more variations. I'd like to be able to have you be able to set all of those different variations in the extension and get all of that out at once. I've been waiting for Illustrator to update and have a larger pasteboard, which they now do. So this should totally be possible. And then the other thing is you saw that really cool folder structure that everything gets exported into. And that's really great if you have a lot of files. But sometimes you're making a smaller package and you want to be able to remove some of those folders, or you want to be able to change the order in which things are classified. So I'd like to make an add-on that allows you to rearrange the folder structure and really customize it. It's all about customizing it to fit your workflow and process, and we just handle the automation and making it happen. So that's what's coming up, hopefully.
Awesome. So another question, what does it look like to give a professional deliverable package? Do you send all of these files in a Dropbox or post them on a server somewhere?
Yeah, that's going to be up to your process if your clients are really comfortable with one tool over another. But the folder that you have exported all of the files into can certainly always be compressed or zipped up and put on any one of those services. And that's how I would recommend doing it.
Yep. I personally I send them a zip file so they have the hard files, and then also a Dropbox file so they can access it somewhere else. And that way, if you do make changes, you don't have to keep sending them. It's just always automatic. But the zip file in an email often sometimes clients just find it handy to search for that, and they can have access to it like an actual file. How much of your process do you show your clients sketches or vectors? So everyone has different skills when it comes to sketching. Personally, I don't show my sketches because they don't translate well, and it's not doing anyone the ideas any justice. So it depends on how detailed your sketches are, how comfortable you are showing that, and how you think the client is actually going to interpret them. But I try to see how the logo works in part of the full brand identity. So I want to explore more than just the sketch, but it does depend on the client. But for me personally, I like seeing how everything works together.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay, I think that's all there maybe there's some questions in the other one. What if a logo has more than one color? How does the Pantone specify that? I think we answered that. Someone else asked about the minimum logo sizes depends on the project. Do you have a general jumping off size point? So we kind of showed that before, where we had like 300, 600, 900, 1200, maybe, I'm not sure if you had 600, but I also like a 2000. So having multiple versions that you can send your client is handy. So you can set that in the extension.
There's another way to think about it too, which is when you're designing the artwork, I always like to think about what application is my client going to use the logo in the most. If they're printing things the most, if it's their business cards or a menu or something like that, like see what the logo looks like in that actual size format, and then use that as your standard logo size. And of course, when you export out JPEGs and PNGs and stuff, you can do a bunch of sizes, but the vector artwork itself, it's valuable to have a good size there too, because when you place the logo into your other designs, you kind of want it to already be a size that you'd like to work with. So that's another strategy.
Great. Another question, do you send everything to the client? Let's say you have 10 good logo examples. I think 10 is too many. When you send it to 10, that's kind of like pick one, choose one, and what suits you. Whereas you, as the designer, should be positioning yourself as the expert and suggesting a few recommendations, not like here's 10, pick one. So generally, I'd say like I average probably 3 to 5. 5 is on the high end. Sometimes I send one if I'm really confident in the whole, and I can show the logo and the brand and all of that in context quite well, and to show how it works. And it really does depend, but 10 sounds like too many. Yes, will I be doing a session on branding and brand identity? So that's a good next step. This is the first one I've done with like a live session. It's a lot of pressure to come up with something while everyone's waiting. I want to be very time sensitive. And like when you have video going and there's a delay and everything, and zooming in like is really slow on my machine, and it's slow to get to you. So maybe I'll have something more pre-structured next time. A bit of a learning curve, but yeah, I think it's a good idea. We'll see what happens. But this was a really great opportunity to share behind the scenes of how I work and how Logo Package Express works as well, because it's such a great tool that does need to get more exposure. Steve Jobs would only usually offer 3 options. 3 is a pretty standard one. You go in with pretty strong option, then a safe option, and then one a little bit left field. So different philosophies. It depends. All right, so we're going to finish up here. I'm going to give one last section, one last time to get any questions in. I think we've put it in the comments because the question field is very busy right now, but I'll give it like 20 seconds and then we'll finish up.
Great. Yeah, this was super fun, Jacob. I'm glad we got to go on live, and it was fun to watch you work too.
Yeah, cheers, man. It was cool. Thank you for the extension, and yeah, I had a ton of fun as well. And being off the cuff really makes me think. It's like, oh, how do I do this quickly? But yeah, it was good fun. Good fun. Cool. Well, then nothing has really come in, so thank you everyone for tuning in. It was good fun, as I said. The replay will be available after this. You can click the green button to get the extension for $25 off, or $20 off for the next week, and you can get the file type cheat sheet available at the website. And if you have further questions, you can email me or Mike. And yeah, thank you so much for tuning in. Later.
Yeah, thanks guys.